South Park's back. And so is Garrison and Trump, but they're no longer the same person. Instead, we got the show's fourth rendition of the president that is a drastic pivot from previous incarnations, while managing to be both a callback and one of the most unique portrayals of Trump in adult animation. The new Trump is just one of many layered decisions found in the season premiere, but the one that has captivated me the most because it cements this episode as one of the biggest "you just had to be there" moments in South Park history, daring Trump to sue Paramount and have the company cancel the show only a literal day after they handed Matt and Trey $1.5 billion to produce the show for 5 more years, along with a streaming deal. So let's break down South Park's new Little Dictator Who Could and how the creators are really just provoking Trump because they're trying to give Paramount as much hell as possible as payback for the legal battle that forced the show into a 2-year hiatus, along with Paramount canceling the Colbert Show as they clearly believe it sends a message.
You really want to end up the Colbert? Just shut up. We're going to get canceled, you idiots.
South Park has given Donald Trump many forms over the years. The first Trump was introduced in Season 5's The Entity as one of the investors for Garrison's new vehicle, the It Bike, a viable alternative to airline travel that's operated by the pilot getting nasty with it.
Hey, it still beats what you go through at the airports.
Trump didn't do anything remarkable in this episode. He was more or less a background character as he flew under Matt and Trey's radar. Keep in mind, this episode aired before The Apprentice was even a thing, so I think people saw Trump as just another famous rich dude. Fast forward 14 years, and Trump is now on everyone's radar after announcing his candidacy in summer 2015. Something that shocked many people in and outside of America, as his campaign was put around his status as a successful tycoon, as opposed to a politician, portraying himself as someone who could truly speak his mind without political bias, a position that evidently spoke to a lot of voters. All of this piqued Matt and Trey's interest. They seemed to be amused that so many people could get behind something that was clearly a bad idea. However, they knew that Trump thrived off attention, and they probably didn't want to get sued. They didn't have fuck you money yet, so instead of depicting him directly in the show, they introduced the Canadian president in Season 19's Where My Country Gone that aired in the fall of 2015. Canadian president was clearly Trump in every way but his name, though he sported the Pac-Man-like head and rectangular build that all Canadians in the series have. Canadian president was elected as the country's citizens resonated with him being, and I quote, a brash asshole who spoke his mind. Or at the very least, they were amused by that. But they let the bit go too far, allowing him to get into office and changing Canada for the worse, causing many Canadians to flee to America. He even built a wall to keep us out.
I'm like, what'd he say fuck me for?
You get the idea. Canadian president was Matt and Trey giving their target audience a good look in the eye and saying, don't do this. Not him. But surprise, surprise, people didn't listen. So although Canadian president was cut off at the end of this episode, the show introduced a third version of Trump, the longest running one in the show so far, by turning Mr. Garrison into a Trump stand-in. His reaction to the explosion of Canadian immigrants was already satirizing Trump's campaign, but Garrison continues to campaign with Caitlyn Jenner.
Buckle up, buckaroo.
Matt and Trey didn't expect Trump to stay in the race for as long as he did, let alone become president, so they found it more appropriate to stick Garrison in the role. Which honestly, yeah, that tracks. His character already went through a couple of eras. What's the harm in tossing Trump into the mix for a season? Oh, you mean the man actually became president? And since South Park already committed to Garrison being their Trump, the character is going to spend 4 real-life years as president in the show? Well, let that be a lesson in how not to do serialization when your show is made in a week. Garrison was no longer teaching at South Park Elementary, and it felt like he rarely appeared in the show for a couple of seasons. I remember he was the driving force of an It parody in Season 21, but other than that, he was put on the back burner, though he finally returned to teaching in South Park after Trump lost the 2020 election, though we didn't get too many episodes with him, as the pandemic birthed the specials era of the show, where we had 6 episodes a year along with 2 streaming specials and a lawsuit that spanned multiple years. Once Trump geared up for re-election, the show revisited Garrison's days as president in the season 26 finale, Spring Break, where his Trump persona and love for rallying was treated as an addiction, one that's threatening his relationship with his boyfriend Rick. We like Rick. He's just a chill dude who really cares about Garrison. With the election feeling pretty up in the air when this episode was produced, it concluded on a note where Garrison and Rick just had to see how things would play out. Maybe Garrison would get re-elected and return to the White House. House, even if he didn't really want to. Or maybe he'll get his happy ending with Rick.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president.
It's now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened.
Well, I guess we're losing Garrison for another 4 years. But hey, maybe they'll make the most of it and give us some funny President Garrison adventures. Or maybe they'll say screw it and split up the two characters. Prior to the premiere of Sermon on the Mount, South Park teased the return of Saddam Hussein, the former dictator of Iraq and Satan's dirtbag ex. Depicted with the typical South Park Canadian build, except his head and all his facial expressions were lifted from photos of the real deal. Saddam was one of the most memorable recurring characters in the show before falling to the wayside, save for a dramatic return in season 7, 22 whole years ago. With the show marketing the second coming of Christ, and the return of characters like Starvin' Marvin in footage that may or may not have been from a scrap special, Saddam's return didn't necessarily feel out of place. But oh, did Matt and Trey have a wonderful trick up their sleeves. With Trump being re-elected back into office, everyone expected Garrison to also move back into the White House, including the citizens of South Park. Extremely dissatisfied with the state of the country and the president's tyrant-like behavior, Randy rallies his neighbors to storm Garrison's household, only to discover that Garrison passed on returning to the White House. He, Rick, and this cute-ass dog are living the good life and keeping a low profile. But if Garrison's in South Park, then who's in the White House?
A dictator from the Middle East? Relax, guy.
Meet Trump 4.0, who I believe can best be described as Trump Hussein. Not only giving him the exact same voice as South Park Saddam, but animating him in the exact same fashion, with cutouts of Trump's actual head pasted onto a rectangular two-dimensional body. As if that wasn't enough, they also paired him up with the Prince of Darkness himself, Satan, making his own return to the show for the first time in 7 years after getting demolished by Man Bear Pig. This Trump even has identical catchphrases to Saddam.
Saddam Hussein? Relax, buddy. I'm not telling everyone to relax. Relax, guy.
They really lean into the nostalgia factor, using Saddam's musical number from the bigger, longer, and uncut movie, I Can Change, as the backing track for these scenes, and emulating his relationship with Satan. The devil even references how similar Trump is to his former lover. There's already theories floating around that this Trump might be Saddam reincarnated, or that he's somehow possessed by the guy, but all things considered, they're likely two separate entities that behave and sound exactly the same, for no other reason than shits and giggles. Though, this is modern South Park we're talking about, they could easily make the circumstances of this Trump's existence a season-long mystery for all the binge watchers at home. This take on Trump is honestly pretty refreshing, as adult animated sitcoms usually do the same thing with the crazy hair, neon orange skin, same old impression, and the thing with the eyes. So everything about this take from both personality and characterization manages to really stand out when it's just live-action photos of Trump with South Park Saddam's personality. But as I said in the intro, going with this depiction was a layered decision. At face value, the best way to call out Trump's dictator-like tendencies is to use him as a surrogate for one of their old bits. But you have to question why they spent 10 years avoiding Trump's name, claiming they didn't want to touch the 2024 election because they had nothing else to say about him, only to go back on all of that in favor of being as on the nose as possible. What changed? Well, my friends, what we're witnessing is Matt and Trey indulging in the fine art of rage bait, attempting to get Paramount in trouble by pushing the president's buttons. For the TLDR, Warner Bros. Sued Paramount for getting less new episodes of South Park than what they were contractually obligated to receive, as Paramount pocketed a couple of episodes for themselves by turning them into specials that were exclusive for Paramount Plus. A battle that Paramount was not going to win. And speaking of losing lawsuits, Paramount also had to pay up to Trump after he sued them over a 60 Minutes interview. While all of this is happening, Paramount is trying to merge with Skydance, who apparently is going to pay Trump $20 million in advertising after the merger is done. It reads as a bribe for the merger to go through. Skydance also interfered with Paramount's negotiations with Matt and Trey as they prepared for the show to head to Paramount Plus, causing its return to get delayed by 2 weeks after already having an unconventional premiere in the summer. Things were getting so heated posted that Matt and Trey were preparing to sue Paramount themselves. How many L's can one corporation take? During this delay, Paramount also pulled the plug on the Colbert Show, citing ratings as the reason for its cancellation. But popular opinion says it was just a way to suck up to Trump, an opinion that South Park obviously shares, as Jesus tries to warn the town that they shouldn't cause too much of an uproar unless they want to wind up canceled.
You really want to end up the Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid.
Now, no matter how you feel about Colbert, I think it's easy to see why Matt and Trey would be pressed by all of this. Social commentary and current events have been their bread and butter for half of their lives at this point. If it even remotely looks like their parent company is starting to censor the voices of anyone who opposes the president, they're not going to ignore it. And from their perspective, it's obviously not the craziest conclusion to come to when, once again, the company that's about to own them already tried to interfere with their business and is planning to hand Trump tens of millions of dollars. Obviously, the South Park creators know more about all of this than us, so for them to lean into the narrative that Colbert's cancellation was to please Trump speaks volumes. Now, obviously, South Park draws in a bigger audience than late night talk shows, especially in the Big 25, but I think they still got the vibe that Skydance might try to keep certain topics off limits once the merger is complete, the kind of limitations that could kill South Park as we know it. So what do once they close a very expensive deal with Paramount? A deal that guarantees that the show will be on for another 5 years? They send a message of their own. Skydance fucked with them and got the season pushed back after their pipeline already got screwed over by the Specials and Warner lawsuit, so they're getting their lick back before more damage can be done. Calling out Trump in the most egregious way possible by comparing him directly to one of the world's most famous dictators and highlighting everything he's been scrutinized for, including his involvement in the Epstein files. If that's not crazy enough, they humiliate him with tiny dick jokes and a crazy AI bit that I don't think I can show on YouTube. Now they've pissed off the guy that the parent company is sucking up to, who has already sued said parent company before, daring him to take off the boxing gloves and go after Paramount once again, and putting their own show on the line just to stress out Paramount, who just spent 7 figures on this show. Canceling it would be one of the biggest displays of wasted money that we've ever seen. I'm sure breaking that contract wouldn't be cheap, but keeping it around will only sour their relationship with Trump, putting the Skydance merger at risk. And I'm sure Matt and Trey wanted to fall through at this point, as Skydance was giving them trouble before even officially being a part of the family. Knowing how vindictive South Park as a show can get, I wouldn't be surprised if this new Trump keeps popping up throughout the season, challenging our real life president on a weekly basis. This isn't even the first time South Park has tempted fate and begged for the sweet release of death. Season 22's slogan was literally #CancelSouthPark, which was included at the end of every episode, partially to mock social media, but also because they know they're never going to be free of the show until Comedy Central kills it. That meta commentary is explored once again in this episode through Cartman, who's questioning his place in a world where it feels like hatred, bigotry, and apathy is the norm. Cartman being a pretty clear stand-in for South Park as a TV show. That being said, I think Matt and Trey know in their heart of hearts that they aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Cartman tries to take himself out alongside Butters by sleeping in the Stotch's garage with the car running, blissfully unaware that most electric cars don't release carbon monoxide, i.e., he was never in any real danger in the first place. No matter how far South Park takes it, the odds of them being canceled are slim to none. Overall, I'm pretty happy with Trump 4.0, as his presence helps emulate the old school vibes that the recent seasons and specials have been trying to lean into by incorporating characters and elements from those early seasons. South Park has felt more and more like a celebration of the franchise as a whole since the streaming era began, so I love that we have Satan and his dynamic with Saddam back in a way that keeps things fresh, along with Garrison in it for the long haul as a regular old teacher. And with the show having a clear target to rebel against, I'm excited to see what kind of shenanigans this season we'll get into, as Matt and Trey have been reinvigorated. I'm really curious to see what the response to the season premiere will be, and the fallout of it all. So let's get the discourse rolling in the comments down below. How do you feel about this new take on Trump? How does it rank amongst their previous incarnations? Let me know in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram at OstricFox and at Roundtable Vids. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great South Park content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!